guys, in today's video, it's broken into two parts. First part, install. Second part, testing and review. Go to whatever section your heart desires. With a secret hidden in the video. Let's get after it. So in this package, I have our 8-gang Auxbeam switch and panel. The switch to go up under the hood to connect all the lights in a nice safe manner, and then the actual 8-gang physical switch that you use to turn on and off all of your accessories in this package. We'll open this one in just a second. Here we have our Auxbeam X Pro series. These are the 3-inch cube lights. These are really nice. I had these on my Chevy Colorado before I got my 4Runner. Awesome light. And then this is the nice bracket that I've got to mount these bad boys to the 4Runner. With that, we'll jump into the unboxing of the actual switch panel and the 8-gang switch. All right, so here's the box that the switch actually comes in. It's a nice package. When I got this before, it was set up just the same way. So we'll undo this little tab, pull this piece out, and we'll just flip the box lid open. Right off the rip, we get a nice Auxbeam sticker, as well as the user manual and the individual stickers that you get to mark the 8-gang switch that we're going to be installing in my 4Runner. We have our circuit breaker, which is very good. This is what helps keep everything nice and safe. So if we get ready to overload or do anything like that, the circuit will break and it'll keep things from short-circuiting or frying and like potentially damaging your vehicle. Then we have the actual switch assembly. This is the heart of the system. So instead of endlessly wiring accessories to your positive and your negative terminal and your battery, you'll have your positive and negative, your ground that feeds into this actual panel itself. And then you wire the accessories into this instead of having a bunch of different wiring systems installed just to the battery. When you open it up, this is what it looks like. We have a few of our 30 amps, 20 amps, 10 amps, and 5 amps, as well as our inputs for our positive, negative, will feed right into here. So it's an 8-gang switch, so we've got 8 areas that we can install this in. This is where the wire for the positive goes. This is where the wire for the negative goes. And then we have our 4-pin and ACC connectors up here, which we'll use to actually connect the switch panel on the inside of the truck. So I'm gonna put this down here. And then under the lid, when you flip it up, you've got a few replacement fuses, as well as a little fuse puller right there. So this is pretty nice. And then it comes with all of our included hardware, our fuse taps and our screws, mounting brackets, should you need those. It's got some universal mounting brackets in that you can use. This is our little pin connector that goes to this. You get a little silicone or like rubberized cover for your actual 8-gang switch unit. So this is what's going to be installed inside of the vehicle and is actually used to control the individual lights. So when we get this thing wired up, you'll see that you have this nice backlit LED. And because I bought the RGB version of this, you can change the lighting to however you want. You also have the option to select your lights to toggle, to momentary them, or you can have them pulse, which is a really cool feature. All right, so that about does it for the switch panel and the 8-gang switch itself. So real quick, I don't think I showed this in the unboxing, but underneath the actual switch panel was another storage area. This is where we get the wiring for the actual 8-gang switch panel that's going to go into the cab of the 4Runner, as well as our positive and our negative wires. And it also came with some nice zip ties to help clean it up. Overall, pretty impressive. Now let's take a look at the lights. All right, so these are the X Pro 3-inch series by Auxbeam. These lights are awesome. Like I said, I previously had these on my Colorado before I switched to the 4Runner, and I really like these a lot because of the functionality that you get with it. Not only do you get your nice bright spot, you get your daytime running lights, you get your turn signals. As long as you wire it up the right way, this thing, it's a very clean look and install to your vehicle. So let's take a look at what's inside. All right, from the top. So as soon as we open it, we're greeted by the nice amber lights that are in here. So I say amber lights, these actually come with clip-on screens, right? So you can change these if they get broken, damaged, or you don't want the amber look, you can go just straight with the Auxbeam 3-inch Pros as they are, which will still have the DRL, the indicator features in here. It'll just take the light from an amber color to the white color that you see on most spots. And in this package, we have safety covers, right? So if you're just driving, you're not using them, you want to protect them from getting damaged, you can throw these bad boys on there. And then our mounting hardware, right? So this is what's going to go to the brackets that I bought over there, which I'll show you in just a minute. These are important. One thing to note too, you might want to get some zinc covered bolts aside from the ones that come in the factory. I did notice that when I had these installed in my Colorado previously, that they actually started to rust pretty bad. So I would look at getting some zinc coated bolts to replace these. Otherwise, I had no issues with this entire system. We have our connectors to the lights themselves. And here you see the wiring that's coming off of here. This is where you're going to wire in your daytime running lights and your indicators. So these are important. We don't want to clip these off unless you're not planning on using this as using the DRL feature that's in here or the indicator. You can hardwire these directly into your existing DRLs and indicator, or you can also feed in just the DRL to the switch panel that I just showed you, just to manually be able to turn on the DRLs, which is also a nice feature. Then we have our wiring harness, right? So this is what we're going to be using under the hood. We've got the factory button that it comes with, which we'll end up clipping off. And we have our positive and our negative here. These pin connectors will go into the back of the lights. We have a relay system on here that we're not going to need because we have the nice Auxbeam switch panel. That about does it for this, right? So these lights are really cool. I'm really excited to showcase these to you. Now let's take a look at the brackets that I bought off of Amazon to mount these lights. All right. So these brackets, I'll put these in the description below. They're pretty cool. From what I saw, you get all the mounting hardware, and these bad boys come powder coated from the factory. So like you don't have to worry about like just bare metal, rusting, that kind of stuff. But let's take a look at them real quick. Oh yeah, those are nice. Nice, rugged look. These are gonna do just fine. Like I said, these were fairly inexpensive. I believe that I paid maybe, I'll have to look at it again. I'll put it in the video, but I think about $20-ish, if that, for these, as opposed to some of the more expensive versions that are, $50, $60, $70. But these are gonna be nice. We'll see how they hold up over time. If I have any issues with them, I'll definitely let you guys know. That about does it for the unboxing. Let's go ahead and get ready to move into the install.
If you're already familiar with wiring switch panels and pod lights, this part might feel a bit basic, but don't worry, you can skip ahead using the timestamps below to jump to sections that matter most to you. For those of you that are new, I'll walk you through everything step by step.
All right guys, so I'm actually going to start by undoing the bracket here that holds the current hood on. I'm going to use the 12 millimeter to get in here and loosen this up so I can get the old pod light brackets installed underneath this piece. When we're undoing the bracket on this side, we have this cable that goes through here. So we're going to need to move this little cable piece out of here. So we're just going to pinch this and pull this part out so we can get to that bolt back there nice and easy. Now that they're in there, we want to make sure that we have a nice fitment on the hood, that there's no issues. If there are issues, which is likely because I do everything the hard way, we'll readdress, but let's take a look. All right, we're looking pretty good. Looking real good. Nice and easy. So all we got to do is use the factory mounts, take the bolts off, and then bolt this bad boy in between the mounts in the truck and the hood, so it fits in between nice and stable. All right, so I've got the first one on here kind of mocked up for you. So you can see that it fits nicely. We've got plenty of space between the bolt and the vehicle, so we ain't got to worry about any scratching, rubbing, anything like that. Just so I can show you real quick up close, this is how we're putting the hardware together. All right, so it's going to be bolting the top because there's these little grooves at the top that the bolt face or the head of the bolt fits into nice and easy and snug so it doesn't move around. We have our crush washer and washer in here that we can mount in. So that's how I have this guy mocked up right here. All right, so to tighten this down, I'm using an 11/16, right? So I use the foam that came in the box from the switch panel to make sure that I'm not like marring up the paint right through here or accidentally hit the window. All right, so we got her all nice and tightened up. This looks pretty good so far. So now we're gonna use the included hardware. Yes, we're gonna use the crush washer and the washer that came in just like we did on this other side. And we're actually going to install these into the holes that are right there, and they're going to connect in on this side of the brackets. All right guys, there they are. We've got them mounted up. They look pretty good. I saved the plastic pill just for you guys. I hope you enjoy this as much as I do. Oh yeah, there we go. Dang, oh dang, those things look good, man. We take a look back at it like this. with the Raptor lights on there. This thing is going to look freaking sweet when I get all the lights hooked up and turned on. As far as getting the panel mounted underneath the hood, I'm thinking for now I'm going to affix this to the fuse, the existing fuse panel lid that's right here. There are some companies out there that make some really nice sheet metal mounting brackets for this. I believe that you can relocate like your radar and all your sensors and stuff back one, and it actually affixes right here. It's a really clean setup. I would definitely like to do that in the future, but I think for now, just gonna get this mounted right here where it's at. Hey guys, real quick. So we ran into a few issues while installing this part. So the way that I thought originally what I was going to do was just use some heavy duty 3M, and I was going to adhere it to this fuse panel lid right here. But the 3M tape would not stick to it because of the texture that's on here. So what I ended up doing was screwing these in place on top of the fuse panel. That might throw some red flags to some people instantly, but I assure you that these screws are just barely in this, but it's sturdy enough to make it not shift. And I made sure to look underneath as I was doing this to make sure I wasn't going to actually nick any of the fuses or any of the components that are inside of this panel. Now what I'm going to do is get ready to start wiring up the positive and the negative to the battery, and then I'm going to run the fuse tap and the connector in through the grommet. If you remember from my last video where I did the Raptor light install, there's a grommet back there in the firewall that I had the fuse tap ran through. So what I'm going to need to do this time, because I'm installing this under there where my original fuse tap is, I'm going to end up hardwiring my Raptor lights to one of the switches that are available in here, because I need to use the same fuse location that I use for the Raptor lights. All right, so as far as getting power to our panel that we have here inside the truck, I ended up using the fuse tap that came with my Raptor light set. If you're curious on which one of these fuses to tap into, just reference back to my Raptor light install video, and that should help you out pretty well. Otherwise, nothing really changed here. It's still fed through the firewall. This just now plugs into the Auxbeam switch under the hood, and I now have the Raptor lights installed into the switch panel, and I'm able to use it on the actual Auxbeam 8-gang switch that's inside the truck. All right, quick progress report. So I have gotten the switch panel and the circuit breaker mounted here. I've got the battery wires put in. I've started to run the cable for the inside that feeds the panel in the cab. Now I'm going to pass this through the firewall and that grommet that's back there. I've already pulled the existing grommet out. It's hard to see, but it's right here is where it feeds in, right? So I've already pulled the grommet out. I have my wiring. This is the connector piece that has to feed through the firewall to go inside. So I'm going to pull this through real quick. I'm going to get some stuff mocked up and mounted up in there. And then we're going to come out and we're going to get our power and our ground connected to the circuit breaker, connected to the battery itself. All right, let's see where we've gotten to so far. So this is the wiring harness for the Raptor lights that I previously installed, right? So I pulled this back out because I'm essentially going to take the power and the ground that's in this, and I'm going to plug it into our now mounted switch panel. So the switch panel, like I said before, I ended up screwing this in place to make it stable so it didn't slide around, because the 3M idea I had did not work. So now I have it mounted up. I have the positive connected from the switch panel to the circuit breaker, the positive from the circuit breaker connected to the positive on the battery, and the negative from the battery, or the ground from the battery, to the switch panel. All right, so I connected our 8-gang switch panel and our accessory for our fuse tap that comes through here. So I ran this back, and you can see the wire right there. I'm definitely going to buy some wire loom to cover that red wire, because I don't like it just sticking through like that. And then I'm going to reinstall the grommet that's in there. But let's take a look of how this looks once we get in and powered up. I have connected the 8-gang switch to the wiring harness that came through the firewall. So this is nice and easy. When you're putting it in, just pay attention. There's a little indentation on here. Just line it up on both sides and it'll slide right in and screw in. So now, if I've done this correctly, I'm going to push the accessory on and I'm going to hit ignition, and my Auxbeam switch panel should illuminate. Let's find out if I did this right. Cross your fingers, guys. Oh, there it is. All right, so we can see that we've got it backlit. This means this thing has got power. So far, so good. All right, so now I've rewired my Raptor lights into the Auxbeam switch panel, right? So I have put it into the number 5 switch, because this is one of the 10 amp fuse. All you need is a 10 amp for the Raptor lights. So I have the positive and the ground, or the negative, in this side. And again, it's ran right in. So if I come in here and I give the truck a start, put the ignition on, I don't have the numbers on here right now, but if I press this one, number 5, my Raptor light should be on. Good to go. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to install the connectors for the wiring harness to the actual pod lights themselves. So we're going to plug these in, and then we're going to route some wiring, and then I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do with the daytime running lights and the indicators. So we have the harness connected to the lights. Now, how are we going to run this? So I'm actually going to run this along the firewall back here using some zip ties. I'll probably affix it to this wire shroud or loom that's right here and kind of run it all the way over to our Auxbeam panel on the other side. Now, for the wiring, the white wire is our daytime running lights, and our yellow wire will wire into our indicators. I'm actually going to go ahead and wire the daytime running lights to the switch panel themselves because I enjoy being able to turn those on and off of my own. Just my preference. You can wire these into the existing wiring harness, but definitely don't have to. All right, guys, so with the existing wiring harness to connect these lights together, I actually don't need the little circuit relay that's in here or the connectors to the positive and negative battery terminals. So essentially from the relay to this left side over here, I'm going to scrap, and I'm only going to use these two double red and double black wires. These are our positives and grounds for our cube lights up here. So I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this. Okay, so now that I've got these cut loose, these ends are going to connect to our connectors in the lights right here. And then our red and our black are going to connect into our fuse panel. Preferably, I'm going to put these ones in slot 1 because they're one of the higher drawing accessories that's going to be on my vehicle. So I'm going to use spot 1. So let's go ahead and get that wired up. All right, so when we're getting ready to put these into the actual switch panel itself, make sure that you fuse these two together so that way you can feed it into slot 1. All right, so we've got the wiring for the lights ran along that loom back there. It's kind of crude at the moment. I got it zip tied. I'll get it cleaned up though. So this one is running all the way back around over here, and I have it laid across here. If you see, I've got so much extra wire on this. So all this slack ultimately running into that panel. So to save myself some heartache, because I'm OCD when it comes to my wiring, I'm gonna go ahead and recut both of these to an appropriate length, because the driver's side pod light is really close to the panel itself and doesn't need a whole lot of room. But I'm going to make sure that if I'm going to upgrade to that little panel piece that I was talking about, I think OE panels makes it, I can't remember exactly, but I'm going to leave a little bit of slack on this driver's side and a little bit of slack on the passenger side, just in case I need some wiggle room when I install it. So I'm going to do that real quick and then I'll show you. All right, so check it out. I have my lights connected to the wiring harness. I have my daytime running light. I know it looks a little crude. I'll make it look a little bit tidier at the end. Running behind by the firewall along that wire loom back there, all the way over here, feeding into, I'll get this zip tied up as well so it's hanging there, not dangling in the back because I don't want it to burn up, but I've got it back here running to our switch panel right here. Right, so in order, the way that I have this right now, I have my Auxbeam pod lights, my Raptor lights, and my daytime running lights for the pod light. That way I can manually turn them on and off. Now all that's left to do really is to wire in the indicators on the pod light and then do some tidying up and we're all done. All right, so I got the panel lid back on. I still have to do the indicators, but I just wanted to show you how this looks nice and cleaned up, right? So we have the circuit breaker, the switch panel. I have all my wiring nice and tucked back here. I'm gonna tidy this up a little bit, but I reinstalled my grommet back there. All right, you can see it over there in the corner right about there where my finger is. So I've got the grommet back in with the wiring ran through. Like I said, I'll get some wire loom to clean that up a little bit more, but this is the whole purpose of the switch panel, right? It's convenience. It's just easy to use. You can wire multiple accessories to it, a lot less wires than having to run a million things to the positive and negative terminals of the battery. All in all, it's just a really nice system. All right, so in wiring these indicators into the existing wiring harness, you can see I've exposed the wires here. I'm going to wrap these back up to make sure they stay insulated. But what we're looking for is that green wire that runs into the back of the headlights right there, or the headlight assembly, is actually the blinker light for our headlights. The top one, as I discovered, is actually for this marker light that's on the side. So you want to stay away from the top one. So when you're looking at this, you're looking at the second little like wiring loom right there. You cut into that one. Be very, very careful not to cut into any of the wires, and then make sure you attach to the green wire, right? So I'm going to use my little T-tap connector, and then I'm going to run the yellow wire into that and clip onto the green wire, and then that should get us up and running on our indicators. All right, guys, you ever heard the saying, common sense ain't so common. Well, we had one of those moments just now, right? So as I'm wiring up the indicator, I'm trying to determine which one of these wires, let me grab a flashlight because my overhead light just died on me. I was trying to figure out which one am I supposed to use to tap into the actual indicators. So research on Google told me to use the green wire. I tried that, didn't work. Ultimately ended up with, guess what? Yellow to yellow, and the indicators now work. So learn from my mistake. If you're using these lights and you're wanting to wire into your existing wiring harness for your indicators, go yellow to yellow. All right, guys. So I take back what I said about common sense, right? Yep. So the driver's side is the yellow wire. On the passenger side, there are two wires that look almost the exact same color, except one is slightly blue and the other one is green, but they're kind of the same. You're looking for the slightly blue wire. That is the one for the indicators. Your white is the ground. All right, y'all. So here it is, all installed. The Auxbeam panel, the circuit breaker, the wiring, everything is run. I'll get these wires under here cleaned up a little bit more, but we had a little difficulty with the turn signals. I got it figured out though. All right, and before we finish up under the hood, we're gonna go ahead and reinstall this. Just remember, it's those 13 little button clips. All you gotta do is get them lined back up and push them back in. All right, guys, so we're just about done with this install. All we need to do now is to clean up the inside of the truck. So we have the panel right here. We need to get the stickers on here to show which of the actual buttons do what. So I'll get the stickers on here, and then I get to do something I'm really excited for. We actually have a friend of the channel who was kind enough to 3D print this bracket that's going to mount right here in this space that's kind of perfectly, it's like it's almost perfectly made for this switch panel, but this 3D printed bracket is going to affix right here, and then I'm going to mount the 8-gang switch to that. There's actually a video showcasing the entire install of this. I'll actually link that in the description. I'll save you guys the trouble of having to watch it on my channel, but there's an entire video and exactly how to install this. All right, y'all, there it is. Not bad for a 3D printed mount for the Auxbeam 8-gang switch. This was a really easy install. It looks really clean. It's very sturdy. It's not going nowhere. So I have the lighting switched. It starts out with green when you get it on, but you can cycle through the RGB on there, and I've got it to blue to match the other blue highlights that are in the vehicle. But all in all, really nice, really affordable. I'll drop the link down below where you can find the plans to print this and an install video on how to actually install it. You ready? Ready? All right, y'all. I said there was a secret hidden in the video. Well, the secret is the next video is going to be talking about Danny and how he came into our lives. So I hope you're excited for that one. I know I am. Oh, that good boy. Leave it. Yes, good boy. Ready? Go. All right, y'all. Let's see how much light we get from these things. Oh, yeah. Much, much better. That gives us so much more visibility on either side of our vehicle as we're going down these trails. All in all, I'd say this was a pretty good install. I really like these things. They give us lots of illumination. It'll help out greatly when we're doing some night riding. All right, that brings us to the end of the video. I know this one was a little bit longer, but we got an unboxing done, we got some install done, and we got a little bit of testing and review. I hope that you found the information super useful and helpful in guiding any decisions when considering using Auxbeam products on your 4Runner. I had a blast doing this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you think about these lights and if you're considering putting them on your own vehicle. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.